So recently we did a video where we were talking about Elite Dangerous, and one of the things I was talking about was my big disappointment in the fact that ship interiors were not a part of Odyssey, or at least a part of Odyssey as far as we've seen. And there's still apparently some discussion, some debate as to whether or not they should include ship interiors. And I feel that they should. And I feel that ship interiors are very important. I think that what a lot of people don't realize is when we go through ship interiors right now, there's a lot of hassle to that. We've made fun of the fact that the MSR is so doorsy, as I like to say, but we can kind of fix that now. Once we get in, we can turn the sensors off and bang, all our doors stay open. And that's great, and that's fantastic, and that's a step in the right direction. But one of the elements that I think not a lot of people are seeing right now, and there's plenty of, it's nobody's fault, because it has taken so long to get as not as far as we've gotten. It's taken a long time for CIG, and they still haven't gotten to where we want them to get, which is ship components. And you might think that, oh no, we've got ship components. If you go down in your MSR and you go next to the cargo bay, you're going to find engineering, you're going to find all these components and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. We have stand-ins, we have placeholders, but nothing really good or interesting. We can make some adjustments to our ship settings, but there's no real depth to it. Now, think into the future, once we finally get subcomponents into the game, and subcomponents are going to be really two big things. One, they're going to allow you to repair damaged ship items. Subcomponents are probably going to be the key parts that you have to work with to fix your ship, because let's face it, some people have kind of fantasized that, I'm going to have to pull the whole power core out and then replace it with another one. Where are you going to store another power core on your ship? You think about the ship interiors. There's not a lot of space, but there is storage space for the little subcomponents that go into these things. And so that's probably how you're going to repair and replace certain items. Those are just going to, the components you see are just going to be like the container or the framework for those subcomponents that are actually going to drive that item. Because if you had to pull those huge items out of the wall, especially if you're in the Vanguard and you've noticed with the railings, actually, how do I get this thing out of here once it's in here? It's not going to stay that way. So with subcomponents, I think that is when people are really going to start to fall in love with maintaining their ship in Star Citizen. And it's going to be if you think about, here we have kind of CIG's version of the paper doll where we change the equipment on our character. But if you think back to more classic MMOs, one of the more fun things was kind of moving around stats on your character, altering things and changing things on your character, whether through gemming or enchanting or all these different, systems that allow you to kind of take that character and then make it do something that out of the box it ordinarily can't do. And I think that you're going to find the same depth in Star Citizen with ships. This is going to kind of take that place. And so you're going to be able to maybe change how quickly your boost recharges on your ship, or maybe change how long your shields go down after you've been, EMP'd. How long does it take them to reset? And you're going to be able to alter things like that, and maybe not in huge ways, but in little ways. And the ways that you can alter multiple systems can lead to your ship being able to do something that ordinarily it wouldn't quite be able to do. And you might be able to surprise somebody with that, or you might be able to make your life easier fighting certain very specific NPCs that you're going to be fighting, so you can kind of build your ship around that. When we get to that point, when players can walk onto their ship and start wrenching on the components, so to speak, to start altering things like that and start tweaking things, that's when you're really going to find players going really in deep with ships and components and things like that. When I see videos that people put out, and sometimes people link these to me, and they're like, this guy says this ship is S tier and this ship is D tier and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, for now, yeah. But there is so much depth to this system that we have not seen yet that I wouldn't exactly put a lot of stock in those videos beyond the context of, these are the hot ships for 314. These are the hot ships for 315. When we get to the point where you can actually crack open your shield or crack open your power core or your weapons and start changing the subcomponents to give them new characteristics or amplify their stronger characteristics to make them even better, while maybe at the same time making them weaker in a way that really doesn't affect because of how you play the game or how you intend to use the ship. When we get to that point, the lines between, this ship is S tier, this ship is F tier, and all that, like all the lines between all these tiers that people love to use to define things are going to get a lot blurrier. So I think that when we get to that point and people start going into Urkel and they're not just saying this gun versus that gun, this quantum drive versus that quantum drive, when we really start to be able, when we can really tweak these things down at a minute level, people are just going to fall in love with that system. And having a ship interior is kind of part of that. The immersiveness of actually walking around inside your ship and pulling out a tool and opening that component up and actually changing it, physically changing it. I think people are really going to dial in on that experience. It's part of, like walking around inside of a ship. I mean, you'll be able to change the interiors and maybe put a potted plant over here and a coffee maker over there, and that makes it mine. But when you're walking through a ship and you're looking at the racks and your back of your MSR and the server room because you've put in your own specialist racks, or you're looking at components that are, wires going in where there shouldn't be, maybe in the future you with certain components, and you could be like, that's mine, I built that, that's unique to my ship. And people are just going to dial into that in so many ways. There's so many hobbies that a lot of us would like to get into if we had unlimited money and unlimited time. And oftentimes these things kind of take the place of some of those hobbies, and they kind of drive us to kind of interact with these systems. And I think that when we're able to do that, and we're able to do it in such an immersive environment of, an actual ship interior, I think that people are going to connect with their ships in a lot more, in a lot bigger way. That's horrible English. But in a much more immersive way. They're going to be really tied into their ships. Honestly, that's kind of where you make your connection with your characters that you create in a lot of MMOs, when you start personalizing. And I'm not just talking about the visuals, but making your character able to do things that ordinarily it shouldn't be able to do, or making it much better at the things that it generally can do in such a way that other people are going to notice. That's the sauce. That's the hot stuff in any good self-respecting MMO. Just being able to, kind of go into a market and buy the same thing that the other guy has. Not, I mean, that just being able to achieve power, that's interesting, but I would argue that it's not as rewarding as being able to do something that other people wouldn't think about, or do something that is unique to that ship that you own versus what other players have. That's when you're going to find players really starting to fall in love with ship interiors in a big way. I mean, right now they're just kind of like a cool little play setting, or they're kind of an annoying, man, I'm just trying to get up to the cockpit so I can fly away before somebody blows me up on the landing pad, or blah blah blah. It can be kind of a hindrance, but once this comes in, people are going to be like, oh no, I like this. When we can load our NPCs into our ships and they can walk around and they can man turrets, it's going to feel a lot more like home. It's going to feel a lot more personalized, and I think people are going to make huge connections with that, and in ways that they don't even fully realize now. So when you're watching a video and someone's saying this ship is such and such, and this ship is really good, and this ship is really, really bad, keep in mind that because there are some ships that just have physical deficiencies, and we've talked about that at length. But some of the deficiencies in some of those ship systems, if CIG brings out a decent subcomponent system with a decent range of modification and customization for ship performance characteristics, shields, engines, maneuverability, overheating, things like that. If CIG builds a good system, you might find that the ship that you're kind of in love with, that maybe isn't, what the community holds as an S tier or an A tier ship, you might be able to mitigate a lot of the weaknesses that kind of keep it out of those higher tiers in the eyes of a lot of players. And you might be able to do something that other players just never saw coming. And that's when you can do things like that in a video game. That's a well-designed game, and that is one of the best feelings in the world, when you show someone something that they had no idea was coming.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.